Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Dr. Elizabeth Pritchard. She is an international keynote speaker, researcher, leadership coach, and she is the co-founder and director of the Women Authentic Leadership Training Institute. That's the WALT Institute. Welcome to the show, Dr. Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Ajay, for having me here.
You are welcome to the show, Dr. Elizabeth. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we'll be talking about. We'll be talking about mastering resilient, authentic leadership, and you focus on women executives to help them lead authentically and excel globally. So my first question is to understand, Dr. Elizabeth, is about this term, resilient, authentic leadership. So resilience is in the face of hardships. Authentic is in the face of other difficulties. So why do leadership needs to be resilient? Who is it facing challenges from? I thought leaders were supposed to help others be resilient and solve their problems rather than facing challenges themselves. I want to understand this part first.
It sounds great. What a wonderful question to think about as well. So authentic leadership is all about who am I being? So it's not about what am I doing. There's so many things out there, so much training for leaders to increase their skills in different ways about what they do and the processes and the formulas of how to do it. But authentic leadership is about, am I being authentic? Am I being true to myself? And there's this wonderful term coined by Keith Ferrazzi in the leadership space, where he talks about us being real models, not just a role model, but a real model. And being a real model, I will also go through ups and downs. I will also need to be resilient and come through things. And the way that we teach and coach around the word resilience is not about bouncing back, because people often say that we can bounce back. But I don't know about you, RJ, or your listeners, but I know about the people we work with, and I know about myself, that I don't want to bounce back to the same space. I don't want to bounce back to the rubbish, the tough stuff, the stress, or anything like that when coming through adversity. And so we teach about bouncing through and bouncing forward, so that we bounce forward because we've learned about ourselves, we've learned more about our teams, we've learned about our skills and our strengths to be able to move forward through our resilience. So yes, leaders definitely need to develop that level of resilience. We get the adversity and find all these things through all sorts of things in our environment, in organizations, communications that might not go so well or how we expected them. We might have different levels of abilities and different levels of engagement from our team members. And so all of these things definitely requires us to be resilient and bounce forward so that we can guide, inspire, and influence our team.
Right, Dr. Excuse me. Right, Dr. Elizabeth. Now, in terms of authentic leadership, what is the age that one should look at trying to be an authentic leader? Because at the age of 20, 21, 25, you pass out of any college, business school, you want to get your first job. At that point in time, you are looking for a good placement. How do you think someone at that stage, with a focus on, most of them people focusing on getting a good career so that they can establish, have a good life, how can they think about authenticity at that point in time? Is it possible? Is it happening? Or is it a new coin, this authentic leadership, devised by people so that, it sounds very fancy? Help us understand then what is the age at which one should talk about authentic leadership. Earlier also, Maslow's law says about the security needs first and then the self-actualization. Why do we expect leaders to talk about authenticity at an age when they need to think about security? Isn't it very contradictory and asking them to do something which is very difficult? Maybe after 60 years, 70 years, these are great words to talk about it.
Interesting question. I've never been asked that one before. That's really, really interesting and useful to think about. So authenticity is about who we are really being inside. It's our strengths. It's our ability to be self-aware. It's our ability to regulate our emotions. And that's not being emotional, but it's our emotions. It's about recognizing our impact on other people and how they respond to us, and then what we do around that. It's about our levels of hope and efficacy and self-esteem and self-belief. It's our levels of resilience and optimism. And it's also the way we take action. Do we keep taking action regardless of what's happening out there, or do we stop and give up along the way? And so in relation to an age, there's no age that you can become an authentic leader. It's your journey of who you're being on the inside, because leadership as we know it in the world of what we coach and teach is around 80% psychology and 20% mechanics. So what am I thinking? What is my mindset? What is the language that I'm using to set myself up and achieve what I want to do in each day? How am I going into, for example, a job interview, whether you're 16 or 26 or 66? What am I saying to myself? What is that message that I'm telling myself in my mind? Have I got this? Am I setting myself up to go, I never got this before, I don't think I can do this, or I can only do 70% of the job, I can't do the rest of it? What are we saying to ourselves, and are we aligning our head and our heart spaces with who we're being? Now, we say that leadership, we all lead, because otherwise we can't get out of bed in the morning. We have to lead ourselves first. And so leading ourselves and then having those abilities to influence other people, we all have leadership capacity within us to some degree. Some people put a label on that. Some people recognize it as different along the way. However, in being authentic and being true to yourself and who you are, what is important to you, what is meaningful to you beyond yourself, I think that can start at any age.
Right, Dr. Elizabeth. You have explained it well. Now, let's look at it from the challenges part. What is it that these leaders, you are a leadership coach, you are co-founder and director of Women Authentic Leadership Training Institute. So, what is it that people come to you with challenges in terms of as a leadership coach? And what is it that you teach at the institute here? I want to understand through that exactly, what they want to learn from an eminent person like you.
Wonderful. Thank you for the question. So people come to our institute from all different sort of fields of work. We have people who may be in administration roles. We have people who are professors at universities. We have accountants. We have lawyers. We have financial advisors. We have a sort of a range of people who come to us. So what do they come to us for? They come because they know that they can be better in their management of their team, or with the influence that they have in the work that they do. Some people come to us because they feel overwhelmed and stressed, and they know that there's a different way of going through their day, with having more energy at the end of the day, feeling more productive, and being able to go through each day with lightness and ease. Some people come to us for programs when they're wanting to up-level a really good team that's already going really well, but they want to even get higher levels of performance with each other and buy-in from each other along the way. Some people come because they're not very confident with having their voice heard, and they want to have some more skills and tools and strategies to be able to speak up, for example, in presentations, presenting to people, in workplace meetings, and those sorts of things. So we sort of cover a lot of specifics, but we always come back to who do you be? Who are you being in that moment? Are you being the stress bunny? Are you being the overwhelmed person? Are you being the person that feels out of control and letting external environment and people and systems control you? Or are you the one going, what can I control? What can I control? And let's do that.
Right, Dr. Elizabeth. Uh, Obviously, people want to grow, they want to learn new things, new skills. Does anyone come and say, I have lost my empathy, and that is what I want to learn because I'm not able to show empathy in my leadership role? Because I guess a lot of authenticity is also about empathy. And that is what led to one of the reasons of the great resignation. People did not get that much of a work life balance. They found workplaces to be toxic, which they did not delve into, did not feel like going into. And that was one of the reasons is that the lack of empathy in our workplaces. How can someone, there are some skills which you can learn. How do you teach them empathy, Dr. Pritchard? I want to understand about this part. It's a very tough job for you. You have to teach something which is very inherent part of our being as humans. How does it work? Do we need to reset everything, go back to much more uh, basic things of our existence, and then talk about authenticity? Without empathy, how do we become authentic in today's time? Because that's what which is very much needed, especially in these times of artificial intelligence.
So it's that human factor. Absolutely right. That's that human factor, that thing that connects me with someone else. And if I'm leading a team or working even alongside them in an informal leadership role, it's like, what's that human factor? How do I create that connection? So there's a lot of things that we talk through, and we don't just teach people, we get them to experience it along the way. So they do activities with each other and recognize what's happening and reflect on things and identify all different ways of what am I listening to in relation to the person talking. Am I actually hearing them? What are my questions, or am I still just talking and talking and talking as a leader and not listening? And so we go through different things to help people recognize what their patterns are, because we all have patterns of behaviors. So we go through and we recognize what patterns of behavior we have, and then we go, okay, let's shift those, let's change those, let's move those to a different place, and we rewire the neurochemicals in the neurochemistry so that we feel it in a different way, and we have that high level of connection with someone. So a lot of things that can come back to judging others. We judge people from our own stories. So what is the state that I'm in when I'm conversing with these people in my team or in my colleagues that I'm working alongside, or even your families and communities? It was like, what is my state that I'm in? Am I going in with a judgmental state? Am I going in listening? Am I being compassionate? Am I being open? Am I being curious? Or am I closing down and just going my way or the highway? And so recognizing what state we have, and then what is the story we have going in our unconscious mind as well. What is the story I'm telling myself? If I'm saying this person's difficult to work with, or horrible to work with, or I don't want to work in this place, or they never listen to me, or any of those things, if we've got these stories happening in our heads and not recognizing them and realizing them, then that chops that connection, that chops that human factor of us being able to connect with that person, listen to them, inspire them, influence them, be open, be heard.
Right, Dr. Elizabeth. Now, what about aspiring leaders? Think grass is always greener from the other side. People curse the leader and they say he's not doing enough, she's not doing enough. But they want to be that person. And then they don't want to change anything. This keeps on happening. Everybody wants to have the throne, but till then they only want to speak great words. And when they get the throne, they do not want to do anything about it because it suits them, either in corporate side or even on any other leadership role that we can see everywhere else. What would you like to tell them in terms of when they aspire to be a leader? There are things to be learned before they even aspire to be one. And that it is not about just the throne, but it's also about doing things for others. How should they look at roles when they are aspiring for one, either as a manager, supervisor, or even larger roles within an organization? How do you look at that?
So, as I said before, we're all leaders to some degree because we lead ourselves first. And within that, we have impact and influence over people. It can be the person down the road that we connect with on the way to the train or the bus on the way to work. It can be our manager. It can be the person who sits next to us in the desk or the call center or the workplace. And within this, we get an opportunity. So this is a great key here. It's an opportunity to practice these skills of listening, really connecting with someone, being less judgmental and being open and more empathetic. And so we can practice this all the way along. And when we're practicing these things, we're building our strengths. We're practicing, we're trialing, we're testing out what works, what doesn't work. And if we have high levels of self-awareness and self-regulation, then we're already on that pathway to whether we sit in the throne or not doesn't matter, because some teams, the informal leaders, have a huge impact and a huge sort of drive for the whole team towards a certain goal. And so sometimes you can have these amazing leaders who are within the team, who are in the middle of the team or even behind the team. You can be a shepherd leader. You don't have to be the outside one sitting up on the throne going, I'm the bigwig. And if that person is, they're often driven by ego as well. And that sort of is another side of leadership that can trip us up, or we can recognize that and work with that and let that go and be more authentic in who we be.
Right, right. A lot of times, when we talk about authentic leadership, it is about leadership with purpose. In today's time, many a times, you work because you need to work. But many a times, the organization that you work with or for, their vision and your vision, your purpose are totally different. How do you manage or calibrate the pragmatic side of existence, as well as bread and butter, as well as the purpose side of things? And that is where a lot of discord is. How do you do that? How do you deal with this dilemma in today's time when you actually want to be a good leader, but and lead with purpose, but that does not, your organization does not give that much of a, the easy answer is that you can leave that place, but then there are very less opportunities. So how do you calibrate your situation in this?
I've been in a situation similar to this, and also, the people that many of the people that we've worked with, they go, I don't want to leave that place because of this, and this. However, this is not aligned. So it's about having something that connects your alignment with the values or the purpose of the organization. What is it about it that you can find that congruence? Because if we're totally incongruent, you're right, it's just really difficult and tricky to work in a place like that, and people often leave because of that. But if you're choosing to stay, there was one person we worked with last year, and she was in a role and she goes, I hate my job, it's toxic, the manager doesn't listen to me, and she was pretty high up in management as well. And she was going, I just need to leave. And so we, over a series of coaching workshops, we explored this in a little bit more detail, and we started with, so what are the things you love about your job? What are the things you love about your job? And she listed down a few things, and she goes, actually I really love doing that, I love doing that, love doing that. What are the things you don't like about your job? She listed a few things. And then over a period of time, it's like, so what are your values? What are your must-haves? What are your non-negotiables? does the workplace allow you to have those non-negotiables, even if they might not be driving them towards their purpose, or that might not be their vision 100%? Is there a connection to some of their vision and some of their purpose that you can connect to and find value within? And then as we worked with her, she recognized that it was like, actually, I love my job. It's just this part of my job I don't like. And so we worked with her of how she could show up and do that part of a job even though she didn't like it. And so being in that place where the workplace doesn't necessarily have the same values and vision that you do, it's like, what connects with that? Because we all have this need to be purpose driven in a way. And it was like, what connects with that organization? What can I see that has those tenuous things, and what is the purpose for me? And some people show up to work and they go, the purpose for me is to do the best job I can so that I can go home and put food on the table for my kids. And if that's your purpose, then you find that and you do that, and you do it amazingly with all of your heart and soul. And so it's linking again to what is in here for you. What is that meaning for you in that role, and what has that little connection with the values or purpose of the organization?
Right, Dr. Elizabeth. Now let's come to the women leadership. You focus a lot of on women authentic leadership, and that's why you have got this WALT Institute. So in terms of empowering women executives to lead authentically and excel globally, are their challenges the same as men, or they have bigger challenges to meet with and deal with? Help us understand in that, and how do they then manage it? What is it that you teach them?
There are some basic level differences that is very well researched in the world. There are different ways of looking at them as well. Some people say that that women, well, we know through a lot of research that women are usually paid less than men for the same roles. Women are often the predominant or primary carer for children, and often as they age, aging parents. Women are often overlooked sometimes when they're at a certain age because they may leave the workplace and have children. And so that continuity of skills, that continuity of work is often preempted or anticipated by some people as being what's going to happen with this person without even talking with them. And therefore they don't necessarily promote them. They don't necessarily support them to go to higher levels within the organizations. So there's some things out there that are definitely stacked against women in many ways. However, the tables are turning. The tables are definitely turning. People are being, on the whole, are identifying that there are these discrepancies and these disparities across genders. And many organizations are committed to increasing the number of women in higher levels of leadership. They are putting all sorts of different policies in place to ensure that there's more of a spread of diversity for everything, not just gender. We're also looking at, ethnicity and beliefs and values and religion, and looking at diversity, because diversity brings strength. Diversity brings power to the workplace when we have this diverse voice that we're listening to. So there are definitely some things that people have come across. There's also things like sexual harassment, bullying, all sorts of different things on different particular organizations and people's experience that we've worked with. And how do we deal with that? Again, it comes back to, what can I control? What can I control as a person? It doesn't matter what gender I am. It doesn't matter what color my skin is, or my hair, or my eyes. It doesn't matter what religion I follow. Who am I as a person, and what can I control within this organization, within this setting, within this job? And people might say who are listening, it was like, well, I don't get to control anything because I'm at the bottom of the pecking order. It was like, there are things you can control. How do you show up every day? Do you sit or you stand? Is that possible for you to do it differently? When do you get to drink and keep hydrated? What's in your thoughts? What's happening in your top 6 inches? What are your thoughts? What are you saying to yourself? What are the words that you're using to empower yourself to move forward? There are many things that are within our control, and we can help the diversity, we can help the strength, we can help the richness of humanity by all of us recognizing those and bringing our part to the fore.
Right, Dr. Elizabeth. There is much to learn about all those things from you, and I'm sure a lot of people would like to learn all these things from you through your organization. So, what is the best way for them to connect with you, Dr. Elizabeth?
Great, thank you, RJ. People can connect with me directly, and it's Elizabeth with a Z, Elizabeth, at waltinstitute.com. So WALT Institute, all one word, .com. We're on Facebook, we're on X, we're on Insta, we're a website, or you can, as I said, you can email me directly, or you can come through our website, and there's some numbers and emails as well on that.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, Ajay.